to Career Nuggets. Today's topic is employability skills, and I'm joined by Femi Oshinaike, Femi Olatide, and Wendy Honigam-Swaby.
Thank you.
Now, we were talking earlier on about CV. Now, I'd like to talk about another important part, I think, about employability skills, and that's psychometric testing. For some people, it's, you know, when they hear that there's a job and you need to go through these psychometric tests, they pull out. I've been at that point before in my career that just, you know, I'll just stop. So I'd like us to just talk a little bit about this. What are they?
I'll kick off. Psychometric, as you say, there is a lot of negative stigma towards psychometric testing within the market, and what we do see, especially within my sector, is when we advertise roles and we say psychometric testing, verbal, numerical, the amount of people at all levels, and this includes senior levels, just shy away from it. Yeah. I've always come from the school of thought you feel comfortable with psychometric testing or not. However, it is a tool employers are using. I probably would say it's a tool that it's not increasing within the sector. Okay. It's probably more in the public sectors against the private. I may be wrong on that, but I see it more in the public sector. However, we've got to be mindful there are people who just don't do it, and they don't want to do it because they have the stigma of, if I don't do well, the psychological issue around that. So most organisations, before they go down that route, they ask themselves what are they looking for as part of those tests. You find that a lot of organisations are moving away from the verbal communication, numerical, but still have the emphasis on the personality questioning, which I do think is a very powerful tool, which is complemented with interviews, because in effect you want to know who you're taking on, how does that individual work within the team, what the weakness is, how do they wish to be managed, how do they work as an individual, as a solo individual, how do they integrate with the team. And it's a very powerful tool to actually make a judgment call, but not in isolation, I must hasten to add. You can't get away from it. There are organisations who have a policy view on it, basically, and I've worked for organisations who have had a policy view. Each vacancy that comes up, an applicant has to do a psychometric test. However, I think employers are also mindful that it does turn people off, and I would hasten the ad at all levels, even at exec levels, basically.
Tell me about it. Yeah. So Femi, I'm coming to you because you're a trainer, and this is something I'm sure you can train people on this, can you?
Absolutely, but you can't train people away from their personality. I agree. If you're going for the right job for you, then the personality would fit perfectly, I feel. But I think the main turn-off is that some HR or some recruiters don't know the right psychometric testing to use.
I see.
So
they use different ones.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they don't know the right one to use, and they use the wrong ones for the right person, which will eventually turn out to be wrong. So it's a very good tool, but it has to be used, properly. Properly.
So how can somebody, any viewer at home, how can they prepare themselves for this? Okay, they might not be able to prepare for the personality, but like you said, there are different tests.
I think they just don't get too frightened by it. You're going to do what you're going to do, you know. I think understand the process, understand the type of test you're going through, because there's a whole raft of, labels and tools that fall under the label of psychometric tests. And I think don't take it personal. Don't think, oh, they know something. Some people have all kind of fantasy ideas about psychometric. They know something about me, which is why they've thrown this in at the last month. No, they've had their own kind of rationale and thinking, should we, shouldn't we use it? And sometimes organisations use it, and actually everybody does badly. Wow. And they think, well, perhaps we didn't choose the right tool.
Really?
So have a go at it, try your best. It's like any exam, do a bit of preparation. I do believe you can't just have talent, you've got to have talent and effort. You've got to have those two factors to achieve anything. Yes. So I think learn about the test, be calm about the test, and then just apply yourself. Never deselect yourself.
I see.
Because that's very disempowering. I do believe in empowering people. Once you take yourself out of the game, you never know if you were going to win or lose. Yeah? So don't deselect yourself. Always, if you want to go for it, go for it.
Okay, thank you for that. Because you talked, what did you say just now? Talent, don't just have talent.
You can't have, you can't just have talent. Talent and effort is what brings
talent
success.
and effort is what brings success. I really like that. And I've got some interesting statistics here, which further buttresses that point. So I'm just going to read it briefly. Jonathan Black, a director at Oxford University, and he basically said the issue is not the number of graduates, so basically people who have the talent or have studied, but their skills. This is what he stated. That too many graduates fail to grasp the fact that many of them don't have the right employability skills. So I guess that's what you're talking about, talent and effort. So it's not all about qualification. And would you agree with that?
I always say to people, the qualification gives you the right to go for that role, nothing more, nothing less.
All right, that's interesting.
I think for me, it's about how do you demonstrate you can actually add value within the workplace. And that's about using those various skill sets we've talked about this morning, communication, written, verbal. Being able to build relationships is a fundamental issue. If you can't build relationships within the workforce, there are issues around social ability. It's about how can I add value to some degree. It's how do I make a difference? And that is what organisations are looking for. You've got to be mindful, not every organisation wants to train people, unfortunately. They want it already made. And that's the reality we are dealing with. We are dealing with very diminishing training budgets as
particularly with the economic situation we're in,
yes. We're moving into a period whereby things are improving, but for the last 3 or 4 years, I think training budgets have been dwindling. So what employers are looking for are ready-made skills, and I think if you haven't got those ready-made skills, it becomes very difficult for you.
Reducing training budgets, the stands chill down my spine. Thank you very much.
I do apologise. I'm sure things will improve.
I absolutely. I think employability skills as well as other soft skills should be on the curriculum. Should be, yeah, especially at college and university level.
What sort of, apart from communication, what other things, are you talking about?
I know of a 28-year-old that cannot write a check.
Write a check? No, you're kidding.
No. Oh, absolutely. Does not know.
Numeracy skills or what?
He's a graduate. He's a graduate, and he cannot write a check. He doesn't know what to put on a checkbook to write a check. So a lot of soft skills are there. Time management are skills that you can actually learn. There's so many things. I think soft skills and employability especially has to be in the curriculum.
I think what we're saying is you can have all these qualifications, you can go and study this, but it's also being able to demonstrate them. I think that's the key thing, because if you want to be employed by someone, it's not just about listing all the courses you've been. It's how to express yourself, isn't it, and convince somebody.
I do think it's kind of in that package of employability skills. Sometimes it's even a little bit more basic than that. One of the conflicts is you'll have a lot of people who are starting out for a recruitment are probably from a younger generation than the people who are recruiting. And I've got teenagers as well, and what happens is they have a view of what presentation is, which can be radically different from what an employer sees as presentation. So the basics of how you're dressed, what you're wearing, and not that that might match your peer group and it might work well there, but you've got to think about potentially an older peer group that might be recruiting. So it's kind of that notion of professional dress, professional makeup, very little jewellery. There's a certain style and standard of what you're going into. And if you're not sure what that is, look at their brochures, look at their websites. If it's in retail, visit the store, see what they're like, and kind of try and match and mirror that. So it's not just your language, it's your physical dress, and it's how you're presenting yourself. And just try and exhibit self-belief. So you're not umming and ahhing. You know, just be trying to be confident without being arrogant. Arrogant is very off-putting at an interview. So the candidate who comes in says, I can do everything, I've done it all before.
Really, but
that's the kind of way it works. So
really, but I thought we were discussing about being a marketable product, and you know you're competing with everybody, so I want to come in confidently.
There's got to be a balance.
There must be a balance.
Got to be a balance. So there's got to be, and you know, sometimes as employers, you know, we want a little bit of that person left for ourselves. You know, we want growing room. We want growing room. So we might expect you to come in, you're 80% there, but we like a bit of growing room as well.
I see. So you don't want 100% already made.
Not all the time.
I see.
Sometimes for a specialist role where you've got to be compliant, you know, it's an auditor, an accountant, that kind of thing. You have to be compliant to a certain extent. But we also expect that people are individual. They bring a mix of talents. We want that talent.
Yes.
We're prepared to help them grow.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Earlier on, I read something what the director at Oxford University said. There was something else he further on states. There was a survey carried out by 300 Oxford University recruiters, and they reported that they found that the Oxford being, you know, we know they're the top guns, so that's why this has been about Oxford, were above average on 6 of the 8 CBI employability factors. So they, in terms of leadership and problem solving, they came top. But they were weaker than the average UK student on teamwork, which we've been talking about, business and customer awareness, which is what you spoke about. You know, if people need to go out and find about what's going on in the business. What do you make of this? And I would like Femi to...
You know, the reason at the beginning I mentioned about, you know, employability skills being skills and quality, the main difference between skills and quality is that skills is taught and qualities are developed. They're already part of you and you just developed it, to be honest. Unless you're taught this, you can't showcase them. And sometimes the earlier on you learn it, the better. Instead of having to go and join the dole queue for about 2 years before you start learning about employability skills. Like I was saying to Femi and Wendy before the program, that I was delivering in a class. I've got about 15 candidates. 3 of them have PhD. They're doctors, and 2 of them have master's degree.
Wow.
And I was teaching them employability skills, and they were taking notes. And I'm thinking,
PhD holders.
Absolutely. One of them is a PhD holder in learning and development, more qualified than I am. But unfortunately, they actually do not know about employability skills. It's the knowledge to start with before you can showcase the knowledge, I feel. So this has to be taught in one way or the other. Although, having said that, university, they do a lot of group work to facilitate teamwork. You know, so if you're doing it and you don't know that that's what you're doing, then you don't have the knowledge of what you're really doing. And I think that's one of the issues.
We focused on Oxford University, but I wouldn't like our viewers to get the idea that there's ever going to be one organisation which is absolutely full of talent. All our viewers have talent.
Yes, that's very
has
true.
talent.
Yes.
And people have to realise that actually you can have talent independent of your achievements. And that's what I mean by effort and talent need to go together to get success. So you can have someone, you know, who's a world-class Formula 1 driver, that kind of thing, but even they can have an off day. They won't have talent in every area. So you have to develop your own talent and appreciate yourself. And don't just think because I'm sitting, I'm not going to get this job because that person's sitting. If you're there for the interview, you're there for the interview. Bring what you have to bring to the table. Don't allow anyone to write yourself off, because as Femi said, you can develop employability skills.
So, talking about that, if you can develop it, then do you think once you've learned it, that's it?
Nothing stays the same forever.
So it's continuous development?
It's continuous. You know, I once spoke to an individual that says, if somebody says, you've stayed, I haven't seen you for 30 years, you've stayed the same, say then I'm a failure. Yeah. You know, you've got to change. Life is about change. Every day is change. You know, we're growing and we're learning all the time. So what's kind of in now may not be the done thing 10 years time. You know, you've got to kind of keep keep appreciating, the employment market does change.
I think Wendy hit on the nail there. The employment market will be changing. We're seeing it change. I think we're seeing it change from moving from the Evening Standard on a Wednesday or Thursday to